I have walked the meteorite hall of the Corvallis County Museum of Natural History every fourth Monday for 6 years. Always before the doors open, always alone except for Grady on the front desk, and whatever pigeons had gotten into the skylight vents overnight. I am not a curator. I am not even museum staff, not on the payroll. I am a paramedic, and the county requires that any public building with exposed stonework and a scaffold rig keep a certified medic on call for the walkthrough, in case someone slips on the marble or a display case comes loose from its mount. It is a formality. It pays $40 and a cup of the bad coffee from the staff room. I took it 6 years ago because my daughter was small and the extra $40 mattered, and I kept taking it because by then I had started to like the quiet. The Fragment sits in the third case from the east doors, under glass, on a black iron stand shaped like 2 open hands. It is not much to look at. Fist-sized, the color of a bruise gone old, pitted all over like something had been chewing on it for 10,000 years before it ever fell. The placard says it was recovered in 1911 from a scorched half-acre outside Draymore Hollow by a survey crew mapping timber rights, and that the crew's foreman, a man named Corwin Bram, carried it back over 11 miles on his own back because he said leaving it out there felt like leaving a man behind. Corwin Bram was my great-grandfather. I never met him. My grandmother used to say he came back from that walk different, quieter, and that he kept the stone in a coffee tin on his windowsill until the day the county museum offered him $11 for it, which in 1911 was a fortune, and he took the money and never spoke of the stone again. In 115 years, it has never done anything. No warmth, no resonance. Every few decades, some university sends a graduate student to run it through a spectrometer, and every few decades the report comes back the same: iron-nickel, unremarkable, geologically inert. They stopped testing it in the 90s. It is not the museum's star piece. It is not even in the main brochure. On a busy Saturday, I have watched 40 people walk past it without slowing, headed for the dinosaur wing, where the real crowds go. It is a curiosity with my family's name on a plaque, and I had grown up thinking of it the way you think of an old photograph of a relative you never knew. Proof that he existed, nothing more. My grandmother kept one other thing about Corwin Bram alive besides the story of the walk. She said that in his last years, sitting on the porch with his coffee gone cold, he would sometimes go still in the middle of a sentence and look off toward the west ridge, like a man listening for a truck that was late. She asked him once what he was listening for. He told her he didn't rightly know anymore, only that he used to. I had heard that story a dozen times over the years, and always taken it for an old man's fading mind. I do not take it that way now. That Monday, the humidity gauge on case 3 had been flagging amber for a week, some seal gone soft in the gasket, and Grady had asked if I'd reset it while I did my rounds, since the conservator wasn't in until Wednesday. It is not medic work. I did it anyway. I pulled the felt tab, peeled back the gasket, and reached in with a gloved hand to reseat the little clamp that holds the case's inner lid. The glove tore on the clamp's edge, cheap museum-issue nitrile, the kind that splits if you look at it wrong, and for half a second, no more, the bare heel of my hand touched the stone. I want to say I felt it happen, and I did not. There was no jolt, no burn. There was a sound, very small, like a held breath being let go, and then the room's light changed the way a room changes when a cloud moves off the sun, except the skylights hadn't shifted at all. I looked down, and one of the old pockmarks on the stone's surface, a hairline fracture no wider than a thread, had gone the color of a coal about to catch. I did not run. I want that understood, because a man my age has learned there is very little worth running from that isn't already behind you. I stood with my torn glove still half on my hand, and I watched the light find the next fracture, and the next, tracing the stone's whole ruined surface, the way water finds the low places in a field after rain. There was no heat coming off the glass, none that I could feel with my palm still bare to the air, only a kind of pressure in the room, the way the air goes heavy before a storm breaks over the ridge. It was not violent, it was patient, the way a man is patient, who has been waiting a long time for something he was fairly sure would come. Grady came in behind me. I heard the front doors, heard him swear under his breath in the particular tone of a man who has just seen something his coffee cannot explain, and he stopped in the doorway of the hall and did not come any closer. I did not ask him to. Some things a man should watch from a little distance, out of respect more than fear. The light climbed the glass case from the inside without cracking it, gathered itself at the top the way heat gathers under a low ceiling, and came down again slower, softer, until it was less like fire and more like something remembering how to be still. I had time, standing there, to think of my great-grandfather carrying 11 miles of dead weight, because leaving it felt like leaving a man behind, and I understood, the way you understand a thing you have always half known, that he had not been wrong about that, only early. It did not speak the way a man speaks. There was no mouth in it, no voice pitched from a throat. But something moved through the room, the way sound moves through water, and it carried 2 words, and the 2 words were mine. Elias Bram, at last. Nothing grand followed it. No trumpet note, no door opening onto some far country. The light settled back down into the fractures it had come from, banked low, the way a fire banks for the night rather than going out. The case was still whole. The gasket I'd been fixing was still loose in my hand. Grady was still standing in the doorway with his mouth slightly open, and outside the skylights, the ordinary gray morning went on being an ordinary gray morning, indifferent to what had just happened 4 feet from a leaking humidity seal. I have thought since then about what a thing like that could want with a paramedic who resets gaskets for $40 a month. I do not have the whole answer, and I am suspicious of anyone who would claim to. But I know this much, because it is the only thing the stone gave me plainly. It did not call me maker, or king, or any of the grand words that would have made a story out of it. It called me by my name, the same name my great-grandfather carried 11 miles, because some part of him already understood what the rest of him would spend a lifetime forgetting. Whatever debt or promise passed between a tired timber surveyor and a fallen stone in 1911, it was never closed. It was only set down, the way a man sets down a weight he intends to come back for. I locked the case the way I always do, filled out the humidity log, and drove home to a daughter who asked why I looked like I'd seen a ghost. I told her I hadn't. Ghosts are the dead, insisting on being remembered. This was something older than that, and far more patient, and it had not been insisting on anything at all. It had simply been waiting for the day the right hand, torn glove and all, would finally reach back in. I called my grandmother that night, the way you call someone when you finally have a question worth asking. She is 91, and her memory comes and goes like weather. But when I told her what the stone had said, she went quiet a long moment, and then told me something she had never shared before, that Corwin Bram used to say the walk out of Draymore Hollow was the only time in his life he had felt followed by something that meant him no harm. He never explained further, and she never asked twice. I think now he knew exactly what he carried, and chose to set it down gently, letting the debt skip a generation, rather than hand it to a son who wasn't ready. I do not know if I am ready either. I only know I was the one it finally reached for. I go back every 4th Monday still. The stone has not spoken since, and I do not expect it to again soon. Some things say what they need to say once, and trust you to carry the rest. But I stand in front of that case a little longer than the walkthrough requires, and I put 2 fingers flat against the glass, not because I think it will answer, but because a debt 115 years old deserves at least that much honesty from the man who finally came to close it.